Don't go anywhere. Turn up the volume and enjoy. Here we go. Go, go, go! Fisichella gets off the grid well. So does Massa. Here come the drivers ploughing into the first corner. Fisichella leads out of turn 1. Behind him is Massa. Next is Montoya. With the first lap completed, the field looks like this. Fisichella leads. Massa is second. Raikkonen is third. He's moved up from sixth. Montoya fourth. He's slipped from third. Michael Schumacher fifth. He's fallen 4 places down the grid. Alonso sixth. Heidfeld is in seventh. And Button eighth. Fisichella is driving at full pelting. Last lap he posted a time of 1:35.69. Massa can't keep the pace as he pulls away. He's been lapping in the low 1:36s. At present the gap between them is 2 seconds. Lap 4 of this Grand Prix. Fisichella leads. Massa is second. Raikkonen is third. Montoya fourth. Michael Schumacher fifth. Alonso sixth. Seventh is Button. And Barrichello is in eighth. Fisichella is really turning up the heat here. Last lap he posted a time of 1:35.55. That's considerably faster than Felipe Massa. The gap is now a tenth over 2 seconds. Fisichella is really turning up the heat here. Last lap he posted a time of 1:35.53. It's quite a considerable lead he now has over Massa. The gap has now grown to 2.3 seconds. We're on lap 6. Fisichella leads. Massa is second. Raikkonen is third. Montoya fourth. Michael Schumacher fifth. Alonso sixth. Seventh is Button. And Barrichello is in eighth. Is really turning up the heat here. Last lap he posted a time of 1:35.51. It's quite a considerable lead he now has over Massa. The gap has extended to 2.6 seconds. Is really turning up the heat here. Last lap he posted a time of 1:35.43. It's quite a considerable lead he now has over Massa. The gap has stretched out to 3.1 seconds. Here's the current top 8. Fisichella leads. Massa is second. Raikkonen is third. Montoya fourth. Michael Schumacher fifth. Alonso sixth. Seventh is Button. And Barrichello is in eighth. Is really turning up the heat here. Last lap he posted a time of 1:35.33. It's quite a considerable lead he now has over Massa. The gap has extended to 3.3 seconds. Really turning up the heat here. Last lap he posted a time of 1:35.57. It's quite a considerable lead he now has over Massa. The gap has widened to 3.4 seconds. Lap 10. Fisichella leads. Massa is second. Raikkonen is third. Montoya fourth. Michael Schumacher fifth. Alonso sixth. Seventh is Button. And Barrichello is in eighth. Fisichella is really turning up the heat here. Last lap he posted a time of 1:35.17. It's quite a considerable lead he now has over Massa. The gap has now grown to 3.8 seconds. The fight for sixth place is hotting up. Alonso must be due to pit within the next few laps. Can Button make something of this?
I suspect he'll be in first though, so he'll need a very good in and out lap and something special from his mechanics. It's always possible they may opt to short fill him.
We're on lap 12. Fisichella leads.
Alonso completes a good final sector. The gap currently stands at 1.7 seconds.
Looks as if the Honda mechanics are preparing for a stop.
Button was able to close in once more. The gap is now down to 1.5 seconds. Is starting to look more determined now. He's reduced the gap by another 1/10 of a second.
Jenson Button takes to the pit lane. Jenson Button leaves the pits. We can see the mechanics preparing from our commentary box window. Alonso pits.
The chance to gain a place seems to have passed Button by now. A decent effort from Alonso's pit crew should be enough to keep him ahead.
Quarter of the way through this Grand Prix, Fisichella leads. Montoya is second. That's a gain of 2 places. Michael Schumacher third. Barrichello fourth. He's up from 7th. Felipe Massa is 5th. He slid down from 2nd. Raikkonen 6th. Alonso 7th. Nico Rosberg 8th. Alonso leaves the pits.
And he's ahead. Alonso maintains track position. That might have been Button's best opportunity to get past.
Now here's a scrap for 16th place. Speed has to stop in the next couple of laps to refit and refuel. It'll be interesting to see if Liuzzi can make something of this.
He's got more fuel left than speed, so as long as he can stick close behind him, he'll gain position when he pits. He should be slightly faster as he's got less fuel weighing him down. So if he can wring out another couple of laps, he should get past. That's assuming he can get a few more laps out of it, of course. Great middle sector from Liuzzi. The gap has been cut to 2.5 seconds. It looks like Speed is responding to the pressure applied by his opponent. He was faster through the previous sector. He's extended the gap by another 1/10 of a second.
The Toro Rosso mechanics are out in the pit lane.
Liuzzi continues to challenge his opponent. The gap is now a 1/10 over 2 seconds.
This is lap 16. Fisichella leads. Montoya is second. Michael Schumacher third. Barrichello fourth. Rosberg is fifth. Raikkonen 6th. That's a gain of 1 place. David Coulthard is 7th. He's moved up from 8th. And Schumacher is 8th.
That's another sector where Liuzzi has been quicker. He's slowly closing in. The margin has shrunk by another 10.
That's Scott Speed entering the pits. Speed exits the pit lane.
Great middle sector from Liuzzi. The gap is now extended to 28 seconds. Another sector where Liuzzi has been quicker. He is really pushing hard. That's added another 0.4 of a second to his lead.
The Toro Rosso mechanics are out in the pit lane. Let's see who the top 8 drivers are. Fisichella leads. Montoya is second. Michael Schumacher third. Barrichello fourth. Rosberg is fifth. Raikkonen sixth. Schumacher 7th, and Christian Klien is in 8th.
Liuzzi is quickest through the first sector. The gap is now extended to 28 seconds.
Liuzzi dives into the pit lane. Liuzzi leaves the pits.
Liuzzi takes the place. He comes out of the pits ahead of Speed.
Alonso posts his personal best lap of the race so far. Last lap he posted a time of 1:35.15. He's closing the gap between himself and Raikkonen. He's been lapping in the upper 1:35s. The gap has now grown to 1.8 seconds. We are on lap 20. Barrichello leads. He's up from 4th. Fisichella is 2nd. He was in the lead earlier. 3rd is Juan Pablo Montoya. 4th, Michael Schumacher. Kimi Raikkonen 5th. Alonso 6th. 7th is Button. And Villeneuve is 8th. Alonso continues to pile the pressure on. He's just posted a lap of 1:34.91. That's a quicker run than Raikkonen. The size of the gap is now 1.4 seconds. Raikkonen is really on a charge here. Last lap he posted a time of 1:35.25. That's quicker than Fisichella. He's been lapping the circuit at the low end of the 1:45. Above his weight here. Last lap he posted a time of 1:35.23. He's getting closer to Fisichella all the time. The gap is now below 18 seconds. Here's the current top 8. Fisichella leads. Raikkonen is 2nd. 3rd is Juan Pablo Montoya. 4th, Michael Schumacher. Alonso is 5th. Barrichello is 6th. 7th is Button. And Nico Rosberg 8th. last lap he posted a time of 1:35.43. He's closing the gap between himself and Raikkonen. He's been lapping in the upper 1:35s. The gap has been closed to less than 21 seconds. There's a decent scrap going on for P11. Coulthard is due in for his stop in the next few laps. Trulli has an opportunity here.
I expect he'll be in first though. He was first in last time. I suppose there's still a chance, but he'll need excellent in and out laps and a very good pit stop. I wouldn't be surprised if they short-filled him. Coulthard made some time during that first sector. The gap now is 0.7 seconds.
The top 8 currently looks like this. Fisichella leads. Montoya is second. Michael Schumacher third. That's a gain of 1 place. Fourth is Raikkonen.
That's another great sector by Coulthard. He's extended the gap by another 1/10 of a second. Trulli responds by going faster through the previous sector. He's closed the gap by another 0.2 of a second.
The mechanics are out in the Toyota pits.
Coulthard has actually increased his lead through the previous sector. He's extended the gap by another 1/10 of a second. That's another great sector by Coulthard. He looks as if he's trying to prove a point. That's extended the gap by 4/10.
Trulli drives into the pits. Trulli completes his stop. It's lap 26 of this Grand Prix. Fisichella leads. Montoya is second. Michael Schumacher third. The Red Bull mechanics are out in the pit lane. Coulthard enters the pits.
At the moment, Trulli just isn't close enough to be any real trouble. Coulthard has more than enough time in his pocket.
Coulthard makes his exit from the pits.
He's in front of him. Coulthard still has track position. There was a fair chance of Trulli gaining a place then, but he wasn't up to the challenge.
Look at Michael Schumacher. He's giving it all he's got. He's just posted a lap of 134.79. He's catching Montoya in the car ahead. His lap times have been right in the middle of the 135. The gap has closed to just under 2 seconds. The halfway mark. Fisichella leads. Montoya is second. Michael Schumacher third. Barrichello fourth. Kimi Raikkonen fifth. Sixth is Rosberg. Alonso seventh. And Button eighth. There's a good scrap shaping up for second place. Montoya can't have more than a few laps worth of fuel on board. He must be coming in soon. Michael Schumacher could really capitalise here.
I think he'll be in first. There's a possibility, as long as his in and out laps are good and he doesn't have any problems in the pits. I would think they'd short-fill him. Michael Schumacher piles on the pressure through Sector 2. The gap now stands at 1.8 seconds. He's raised his game, Montoya, and the fight is most definitely on. He's eked out the margin by another 10.
I can see the McLaren mechanics out in the pit lane. We can see plenty of activity down in the Ferrari garage now.
Michael Schumacher knows he has to respond, and he's doing just that. He's reduced the gap by another 1/10 of a second. Michael Schumacher is breaking down this lead. He's slowly closing in. The margin has shrunk by another 10.
Montoya enters the pits. Michael Schumacher pits. Here's the current top 8. Barrichello leads. He's up from 4th. Fisichella is 2nd. He was in the lead earlier. 3rd is Juan Pablo Montoya. 4th, Michael Schumacher. Montoya exits the pit lane.
Montoya maintains track position. It's a shame that Schumacher didn't make more of that opportunity.
Raikkonen is really on a charge here. Last lap he posted a time of 1:35.45. That shows more pace than Montoya. He's been lapping in the mid 1:46s. After 32 laps, Fisichella leads. Raikkonen is 2nd. 3rd is Juan Pablo Montoya. 4th, Michael Schumacher. Alonso is 5th. Barrichello is 6th. 7th is Button. And Nico Rosberg 8th. Fisichella is driving at full pelt here. Last lap he posted a time of 1:35.39. That's a quicker run than Raikkonen. He's been lapping in the low 1:36s. The top 8 are as follows. Fisichella leads. Raikkonen is second. Third is Juan Pablo Montoya. Fourth, Michael Schumacher. Alonso is fifth. Barrichello is sixth. Seventh is Button. And Nico Rosberg eighth. Raikkonen is punching above his weight here. Last lap he posted a time of 1:35.29. That shows more pace than Montoya. The gap now stands at 6.5 seconds. Let's take a look at the current top 8 positions. Fisichella leads. Raikkonen is second. Third is Juan Pablo Montoya. Fourth, Michael Schumacher. Alonso is fifth. Barrichello is sixth. Seventh is Button. And Nico Rosberg eighth. Fisichella is driving at full pelt here. Last lap he posted a time of 1:35.17. That's a quicker run than Raikkonen. He's been lapping in the low 1:36s. Shaping up midfield for 10th and 11th places. Coulthard is due in for his stop in the next few laps. Trulli has an opportunity here.
He'll probably be in first this time. I think he may have a chance if everything goes like clockwork. They may even short fill him to get him out first. Trulli is fastest in Sector 1. He's reduced the gap by another 1/10 of a second.
We're on lap 38. Fisichella leads. Montoya is second. He's up from third. Raikkonen is third. He slid down from second. Fourth, Michael Schumacher. Alonso is fifth. Barrichello is sixth. Seventh is Button. And Nico Rosberg eighth.
Has actually increased his lead through the previous sector. The gap is just over a second, 1.1 to be exact. Trulli responds by going faster through the previous sector. The gap has now fallen below a second.
The mechanics are out in the Toyota pits.
Coulthard has actually increased his lead through the previous sector. He's extended the gap by another 1/10 of a second. That's another great sector by Coulthard. The gap is extended to 1.3 seconds.
Trulli drives into the pits. Trulli completes his stop. The top 8 currently looks like this. Fisichella leads. Montoya is second. Michael Schumacher third. Barrichello fourth. Kimi Raikkonen fifth. Alonso sixth. Seventh is Button. And Nico Rosberg eighth. The Red Bull mechanics are out in the pit lane. Coulthard enters the pits.
At the moment, Trulli just isn't close enough to be any real trouble. Coulthard has more than enough time in his pocket.
Coulthard makes his exit from the pits.
He's in front of him. Coulthard still has track position. There was a fair chance of Trulli gaining a place then, but he wasn't up to the challenge.
Quarters of the way into this race. Fisichella leads. Montoya is second. Michael Schumacher third. Barrichello fourth. Kimi Raikkonen fifth. Alonso sixth. Seventh is Button. And Nico Rosberg eighth. There's a good scrap shaping up for second place. Montoya can't have more than a few laps worth of fuel on board. He must be coming in soon. Michael Schumacher could really capitalise here.
I would expect him to come in first. He was first in last time. He needs excellent in and out laps and a near perfect pit stop in order to have a chance. They may well short fill him. Montoya is on it in sector 1. He's extended the gap by another 1/10 of a second. Knows he has to respond, and he's doing just that. The size of the gap is now 1.4 seconds. He's raised his game, Montoya, and the fight is most definitely on. He's extended the gap by another 1/10 of a second.
See the McLaren mechanics out in the pit lane. We can see plenty of activity down in the Ferrari garage now.
Montoya continues to push hard, once again stretching the lead over his opponent. He's extended the gap by another 1/10 of a second. Montoya is fast through the middle part of this lap. He's extended the gap by another 1/10 of a second.
Montoya enters the pits. Michael Schumacher pits. As we head into the closing stages of this Grand Prix, Barrichello leads. He's up from 4th. Fisichella is 2nd. He was in the lead earlier. 3rd is Juan Pablo Montoya. 4th, Michael Schumacher. Kimi Raikkonen 5th. Montoya exits the pit lane.
Montoya maintains track position. It's a shame that Schumacher didn't make more of that opportunity.
Alonso is on a charge now. Last lap he posted a time of 1:35.53. That shows more pace than Montoya. He's been lapping around the high 204s, low 205s. Alonso continues to pile the pressure on. His previous lap was 1:36.17. That shows more pace than Montoya. The gap now stands at 1.7 seconds. Let's take a quick look at the current leaders. Fisichella leads. Raikkonen is second. Alonso third. Montoya fourth. Michael Schumacher fifth. Barrichello is sixth. Seventh is Button. Nico Rosberg eighth. Alonso continues to pile the pressure on. Last lap he posted a time of 1:35.39. He's getting closer to Fisichella all the time. The gap has closed to under 23 seconds. Fisichella leads. Raikkonen is second. Alonso third. Montoya fourth. Michael Schumacher fifth. Barrichello is sixth. Seventh is Button. And Nico Rosberg eighth. Driving at full pelt here. Last lap he posted a time of 1:35.35. That's a quicker run than Raikkonen. He's been lapping in the 1:37 region. Here's the current top 8. Fisichella leads. Raikkonen is second. Alonso third. Fourth, Michael Schumacher. He's up from fifth. Montoya fifth. He slipped down from fourth. Barrichello is sixth. Seventh is Button. And Nico Rosberg eighth. Really turning up the heat here. Last lap he posted a time of 1:35.45. He's putting distance between himself and Raikkonen now. The split has increased and it's now about 14 seconds. With just 5 laps to go, Fisichella leads. Raikkonen is second. Alonso third. Fourth, Michael Schumacher. Montoya fifth. Barrichello is sixth. Seventh is Button. And Schumacher is eighth.
a lot of ground to make up in the final few laps of this race, but it seems as though he's on it now. This race isn't over yet. Raikkonen is under some pressure. The gap currently stands at 2.6 seconds. Alonso completes a good final sector. The gap now stands at 2.4 seconds. Alonso continues to close in. The gap has been closed to exactly 2 seconds. That's a promising middle sector for Alonso. He looks as if he's trying to prove a point. That's reduced the gap by 0.4. Raikkonen's started to pick up pace now. He's not willing to let this gap get any smaller. The gap is out to 2.1 seconds now. Raikkonen has once again pulled away. He was clearly quicker on that last sector. He's extended the gap by another 1/10 of a second. Alonso looks like he's starting to respond. The gap is now a 1/10 over 2 seconds. Fisichella in first place has started his final lap. We've seen an amazing display of driving from Fisichella this afternoon. He was on a 3-stopper today, which is what most of the teams went with. Alonso continues to close in. He's slowly closing in. The margin has shrunk by another 10. The final lap has begun and Alonso is putting some real pressure on to get past the guy in front of him. There isn't much of this race left, so he'd better make his move soon or it will all be over. He started on pole, but it's still testimony to his driving skills that he's at the head of the pack on the last lap of the race. The car looks in remarkably good condition, and the team must be pleased with the way it's performed here today. Raikkonen's started to pick up pace now. He's not willing to let this gap get any smaller. He's extended the gap by another 1/10 of a second. He's done it. Fisichella powers across the line in first place. 10 points. Raikkonen will cross the line second. What a race, wonderful stuff. Shanghai has provided yet another fabulous Grand Prix for us to absorb. This track seems to get better year after year, and thankfully there are no dislodged drain covers to contend with. Overall, I think the Chinese race organisers can be very proud of the show they put on there, so well done to them. Next it's over to Japan in 7 days' time for the penultimate round of the 2006 season. As always, it should be a huge technical effort to get these cars.